Hello, everybody, and welcome to the post-match podcast here from Anfield. I'm your host, Theo Squires, and it has been a disappointing day for Liverpool, where Arne Slot's unbeaten start, his winning start as Liverpool head coach, has come to an end at home to Nottingham Forest. An absolute worldie from Callum Hudson-Odoi has sealed the points with his Forest first victory here at the City Ground at Anfield since 1969, I believe. And yeah, you can't really fault them for it. They deserved it on the basis of their second half today. And it was a wonderful goal from them. Darwin Núñez loses it on the edge of the box. They counter-attack with Elanga. He sprays a diagonal pass to Hudson-Odoi. He cuts inside, curls it into the bottom corner past Alisson. There's nothing the Brazilian can do about that. And it means Liverpool that winning run is over. They stay second in the table for now, but obviously they can drop depending on the result of the North London derby tomorrow and Newcastle as well, I believe. Man City, their 100% start to the season continues, so they're top 3 points clear of the red. We are live on YouTube, so if you've got your comments, send them in my way. We'll try and get through as many of them as we can. Where to start, really? It just wasn't Liverpool's day. Like, they looked so good before the international break, didn't they? When they dismantled Manchester United so emphatically at Old Trafford. But today, a number of players, they looked a bit jagged, a bit below par. Maybe they could have done with a bit of rotation there. You can tell McAllister, he's gone all the way to South America, had those injury issues, and it's just not quite clicked. He was one of the players taken off early on. Szoboszlai and Salah just weren't at the races. A number of misplaced passes. Liverpool couldn't click in the final third. They were pushing, they had most of the possession, they were passing it around well, but when it got to the final third, that final ball let them down so many times. They did have chances. Luis Diaz in the first half, he hit the inside of the post. There was a great save from Matt Sells to deny McAllister, keeping out his header. Jota had a volley, I think, straight at him as well from a stun pass from McAllister. But in the second half, Liverpool just grew more and more frustrated. They weren't creating much. When they were trying to get into the final third, they were just letting themselves down with that final ball. Salah giving it away, Szoboszlai giving it away. Sells didn't have particularly much to do, and Forest defended really, really well. It did look like a game where Liverpool were crying out for Harvey Elliott. Sod's law, isn't it? He gets that fractured foot during the international break. He's going to be out until end of October. So Liverpool couldn't obviously bring him in. So Szoboszlai starts and just didn't quite work. We'll have a look at a few of your comments now. Someone, was it Lee, saying you listen to it and it sounds extremely tame as a performance, but that's football. It's just the international break's come at the wrong time for Liverpool, hasn't it? They looked a bit tired, lost that bit of momentum, that bit of rhythm. It'll be interesting to see how they respond to this one, because obviously under Jurgen Klopp, that home record for so long was just invincible, wasn't it? They barely lost the game. They barely put in these performances. And when they did put in these below-par performances, they found a way to get that goal at the end. There was nothing like that today. And a lot of fans left early on. I think they'd seen enough, quite confident that Liverpool weren't going to get that equaliser. That's something that Arne Slot's going to have to address, pick the players up, giving them lots of praise for how they performed during the first couple of months of his reign in that first month of the Premier League season. Maximum points, getting those wins and playing really well. This is the first setback, and it's how do you respond? How do you pick those players up? Liverpool back in action on Tuesday, I think, away at AC Milan in the Champions League. And you'd expect to see a few changes for that. It's just how much does he do? He said in the press conference this week that he wasn't planning to rotate too much, and then I think he backstepped a little bit because Liverpool have got a really intense fixture list coming up, where it's 7 games in 22 days. He's going to need to make full use of his squad. But you look at the players on the bench there, like Conor Bradley came on, Costa Tsimikas came on, Cody Gakpo, Curtis Jones back from injury, Darwin Núñez. Now, Núñez and Gakpo, they need goals, they need chances, but they came on and they didn't affect the game today. The substitutes didn't make much of an impact. Conor Bradley struggled a little bit against the pace of Hudson-Odoi, and the goal comes from him being turned when he cuts inside. Yeah, it's a disappointing loss for Liverpool, and it's come at a bad time, hasn't it? There's a real chance for them to push on if they've got a victory. You're keeping that pace with Man City, and you look at the games next week. I think Man City have got a tough one, haven't they? Is it Tottenham next week for Man City? No, Arsenal, sorry. Man City at home to Arsenal next weekend. So if Liverpool had won this one, they were level with them, then you could have made top spot your own. Instead, you're hoping that there's drop points there, and then you're keeping distance with them because you've still got touching distance. You've still got Arsenal. You can overtake you. But yeah, it's tough for Liverpool to take. Like Forest at home, it's normally a home banker, isn't it? Let's see what else people are saying in the comments. Ola Williams saying Arno's got his work cut out. The honeymoon is over. Let's get to serious work. It's not going to be much time for them to get to work on the training ground for this one, is it? They'll have a day recovery, day preparation, and then they'll fly out to Italy straight away to face AC Milan. But maybe that's what they need. Maybe they just need to get back on the pitch, get out of the system. And it's what you want, isn't it? As a point of view, you want them to be back quickly, having that Champions League, what they worked so hard to get last season, back in the Champions League, out the San Siro, this amazing stadium, to show what they're all about. Let's focus on any positives if we can. Yeah, Ryan Gravenberch, let's talk about him. I thought he did really well again today in terms of the rest of the team. He was, again, a standout player there. He was looking really good as a number 6. He's good on the ball. He's winning it back well. He's carrying it forward well. Obviously, it's hard to focus on a defensive midfielder when the team has just lost a game you expect them to normally win. But it was another encouraging performance from him. It's a difficult one to stomach, but it's still encouraging signs. You can't really fault him for the way the goal comes or anything like that. Diaz, I thought he was bright again, really. And yeah, he comes off early in the second half when Arne Slot makes changes to try and get an equaliser, but he was lively in that first half, getting down the wing. He obviously hits the post. He's had a good start to the season, 4 goals in club and country. Couldn't continue that run today, but he's still a bright enough spark. The negatives were, like I've already mentioned, Salah wasn't great. Not much went for him. There was so many times where he's cut inside, looked up, tried to pick a pass, and he's just not found his teammate. He's overhit it, or he's put it too far to one side. There was one cross that was just horribly overhit. And then there's a couple of shots that weren't right. You know, when he just hits it wide, he's not got it under control. It's just not what we've been seeing from him for the first few weeks of the season. Jota was another really quiet display from him. So yeah, that's probably one you're going to change, you'd imagine, on against AC Milan, because that's 2 games now for me where Jota hasn't been at his best, where he has been quiet, and you'd like to see Nunes or Gakpo come in and have a chance. Obviously, there's Chiesa now as well. He wasn't involved today, still picking up match fitness or sharpness away from Anfield training. We'll see if he's involved. Obviously, for AC Milan, you get more substitutes in the Champions League. It's a 23 squad, so Arne Slot can name him in that, and even if he doesn't want to select him and give him his Liverpool debut. But if he does give him his debut off the bench or even starts him, it is more familiar surroundings. It's against an Italian team that he knows well, for playing against them for Fiorentina, playing against them for Juventus, and San Siro. It's a stadium he goes to at least 2 times a season. So we've seen it in the past where, like, Fabinho, I think, got his first Champions League start against Paris Saint-Germain here at Anfield all those years ago, where it's more familiar. It's a better base for him to kickstart. But yeah, what Liverpool could have done with him on the bench today, potentially. I can understand why they didn't have him. He's not played since the end of June, since Italy were knocked out of Euro 2024 by Switzerland in the round of 16. But yeah, attacking options, they win games, they get goals. It's just unfortunate for Liverpool that didn't happen today with Gakpo and Nunes. But you can't just fault the substitutes when the 11 that started, it wasn't clicking for them as well. What else we got in the comments? May as well take the loss and learn from it, says Red Chili. Yeah, it's the fact that it's a new manager, it's a new era for Liverpool. You're going to get these early setbacks. They're not going to have a perfect season. It is going to be up and down, and it's how they respond to it now. Like, this will be the first time that dressing room has seen what Arne Slot's like after defeat, and it's how they pick themselves up in training, how they go again, what they think went wrong. Because if you look at the stats, they did have most of the possession. They had 70% possession. They had more shots, only 5 on target. Forest had 3 on target, and one of them's an absolute worldie that finds the bottom corner. Total touches in the box, they've put 34. Forest only had 5, but Forest did have so many men behind the ball getting important blocks in, and they were a physical side today as well. Like, McAllister's taken a few knocks. It's not what you want to see when he's come back from international duty, carrying that little bit of an issue. But hopefully he'll be okay to play in midweek against AC Milan, because when he plays well, Liverpool tend to play well. Team's still evolving. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's just after that 100% winning start, you want Liverpool to carry it on, don't you? You want them to maintain that momentum. We've not seen that from today. It's an early setback, but hopefully it's something they can learn from quickly. Let's have a look at Doidy's ratings, shall we? Let's see who he's picked out. You obviously can see them on the Liverpool Echo website. Ian Doyle's Liverpool player ratings, and Salah and 2 more poor in a shock Nottingham Forest loss. Lots of sixes, a few fives, as you'd imagine. The fives are the players that I've already picked out. Jota, Szoboszlai and Salah. For Salah, he said the touch wasn't quite there for the most part during a frustrating showing. Forced Sales into one good save second half, but he began to annoy fans with ambitious shots. Yeah, that was the big drop-off, isn't it? Those three players had looked good for Liverpool in the opening weeks of the season. They're not at their levels today. You can tell it was below par. Gravenberch is Doyley's star player, though that's not saying much. Nothing above 7 in his ratings today. And he's actually dished out a couple of 4s as well. Nothing too complimentary for the substitutes. Not really a surprise when they didn't change the game at all. It's like, well, that was when Liverpool lost control of it a little bit, looked a bit more desperate, trying to force things to happen, but couldn't find a way past that Forest defence that was just sitting deep and getting rid of everything. Sells wasn't really tested enough, and that's something that they'll need to work on and improve. But then it's easy to say that, isn't it, when they have scored goals for fun in the opening weeks without conceding a goal. Let's have a look at a few more of your comments. Rob up and down is fine. Losing like that is not. They always have the stats on side, and they still lose these games more times than they should. But yeah, it's a difficult one for Liverpool to stomach because it is normally a home banker, isn't it? Nottingham Forest at home. No one would have inside Anfield today would have expected Forest to pick up their first win here since the 60s. It's just how Liverpool respond. It's still early in the season, but now you're looking up at Man City and they've got a lead. They've got the goal difference. They've got the points. And Erling Haaland is in just incredible form. Another 2 goals for him today. So look at the scoring charts. He's on 7, 8, 9, something ridiculous like that, isn't he? Whereas Salah and Diaz 3 apiece is second in the scoring charts. We'll see how Liverpool responds. I've said quite a lot again. That's just the recurring feeling, isn't it? Liverpool get this disappointing loss, and it's how you respond, how you pick yourselves up. Because you look at the fixtures, Liverpool have a nice enough start to the season, but we know there's a tough run of games coming up when these Champions League fixtures coming in thick and fast. So next up, it's AC Milan away on Tuesday night, AFC Bournemouth next weekend at Anfield. Again, that's a game you'd say is a home banker normally, but on the basis of this, they're going to have to be much improved. West Ham at home in the League Cup on Wednesday, 25th. If Slot hasn't rotated the squad much before that, that's the game where you'll maybe see Tyler Morton. Who else can we see? Jarrell Quance will probably go back in. Chiesa will get a first start. If Gakpo and Nunes haven't had chances to start, that'll be one way we have a proper look at them. But there are games coming where they're going to have to look at other members of the squad here. After West Ham, it's Wolves away, Bologna at home in the first Anfield Champions League game of the season, October the 2nd. Palace away, October the 5th in that dreaded 12:30 kickoff. That's it up until the October international break, and that's when the fixtures get tough. When you're looking Chelsea, Leipzig, Arsenal, Brighton, Leverkusen, Southampton, Real Madrid, City, Newcastle, Everton. This is a nice start for Liverpool on paper before the October international break. They need to make it count. They need to pick up the points. And they need to respond well. Like Forest are reliably informed, celebrating very loudly down in the Anfield Tunnel in the moment. And you can't fault them that, can you? It is a historic win for them. The side that normally finds themselves battling against relegation. And they've done enough to stay up in recent years. But this is a huge victory for them and one they wouldn't have expected. It actually has them in the top 4. They're unbeaten. Liverpool aren't. Nottingham Forest are unbeaten with 2 wins and 2 draws. So fair play to Nuno Espirito Santo's side. And it is a really good goal. One worthy of winning any game. It's just not one you'd expect to see for the visitors today. What else has happened in the Premier League today? Let's have a little look. Southampton lost 3-0 at home to Manchester United. Brighton drew 0-0 with Ipswich. Do we take that as a positive for Liverpool, Brighton dropping points? Because they'd obviously started the season really well as well. And I think at home to newly promoted Ipswich, you'd have fancied them to do something. Palace, Leicester was a bit of a corker, I believe. I think that one for 2-0. Last minute penalty from Mateta. Leicester had been 2-0 up at Selhurst Park, but Palace got it back to 2-0 right at the death. Former Liverpool boy Danny Ings got an equaliser right at the death for West Ham as well, away at Fulham. And as we already mentioned, Man City won 2-1 home to Brentford. Brentford actually took the lead in after like 22 seconds, but Erling Haaland, he's just inevitable. He's invincible. He gets another 2 goals, and City top the table already in these early weeks of the season. Now back to your comments. What are we on now? It is 5:34. desperate is a good way to describe the last 15 minutes. Yeah, Liverpool just ran out of ideas. That they were trying to force it. They were looking a bit desperate, and it wasn't clicking for them. They were conceding fouls. They were getting done on the counter attack, and they just weren't linking up well in that final third. The passes weren't coming off. The crosses weren't coming off. The shots were forced. They were going wide. They were getting blocked. A couple were saved by Sells, but not too many. Forest are always going to play a low block and hit on the counter. The defence has been rock solid so far this season. They just needed to create, says Ola Williams. And they didn't create too much, did they? I know we've said they've had chances, but the goalkeeper wasn't threatened too much. And it is disappointing. Samantha Page says they've thrown 3 points away. Red Chili says it might be a blessing in disguise. Maybe it is a bonus sometimes to get that early setback out the way and learn from it. We'll see how Liverpool manage in Italy in midweek. Matty Gorman has pointed out Szoboszlai has pointed out Szoboszlai, saying he hopes he's not going to slide back into the form he showed last season. Now, Szoboszlai is an interesting one, and we did mention it on the Bloodgrad podcast on Friday. If you've watched that, if you've not watched it, go and check out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts from. Statistically, he's had a really good start to the season in terms of like the progressive runs, distance covered, passes in the final third, etc., etc. But he's still not showing the form he showed at the start of last season when he wowed everyone when he first joined Liverpool, when he was scoring that like spectacular goal against Villa or Leicester in the League Cup. And he's just not quite at that level. Personally, I was surprised he started the season as first choice. And from the first 3 games, you can't fault that decision. He's done well. He's deserved to keep it. But I thought Harvey Elliott had a really, really impressive pre-season and deserved to keep the place. He was great at the back end of last season, scored some big goals, and he's a player you can rely on to always work hard, never give it up, provide goals, provide assists. And there was obviously that is the main competition for the number 10 shirt, or the number 10 place in the squad, I should say. Szoboszlai and Elliott. You lose Elliott to this injury, and the pressure goes more on Szoboszlai. He's got to step up. He's got to be consistent. That consistency that he was lacking last year. And he's not shown it today. Granted, there's an international break, and it didn't go well for Hungary. They lost 5-0 to Germany, and I know Szoboszlai came out and there was quite defensive about that because they got a lot of criticism, as you can imagine. I think they did respond with a 0-0 draw in their second game in the Nations League. Is that right? Yeah, against Bosnia, who the Dutch had beaten 5-2 a few days earlier. But it's still not ideal. He's good at he's on the ball when he's running forward, when he's looking up, when he's picking out the passes, when he's getting those shots from distance, and he's making things happen in the final third. But that didn't happen from today. He gave away a number of easy passes like Salah. Mads has basically just said what I've said there, really. He's someone who's good at when he runs and he shoots, but he gives it away too much. The touch is heavy, and he isn't taking the shots. He hasn't scored that many for Liverpool, has he? Like, you'd expect him to have scored more than he does. What was his record last year? He'd got like 7, 8 maybe, something like that. Let's have a look on LFC history. Love the LFC history. It comes to our rescue so many times. So we got 7 goals last season, and 4 assists. Respectable enough. This season, no goals, 1 assist. Technically, we can say it's 2. The one at Ipswich is a little bit deflected for Salah, but he's involved in that. That's where you want to see him, in that final third, making things happen. Today, it just didn't work for him. He was in that final third, but he wasn't making it happen. He just wasn't linking up. He wasn't on the same page as his teammates. And it's a recurring theme here. Szoboszlai has struggled, and Salah's struggled too. As Matt Van Emden's pointed out, he's absolutely useless. That's why he isn't one of the best in the world. Too inconsistent. Szoboszlai and Salah were woeful in the final third. Horrendous passing. Salah scandalous at times. Wow, that is scathing criticism. I'm not sure I'd have gone that strong on Mohamed Salah. Inconsistent. That's a bit of a stretch, is it not, Matt? Szoboszlai. Salah's someone who's got over 200 goals for the club and gets over 20 goals every single season. He's had an amazing start to the campaign, deservedly having talks about his contract. But it's sod's law that he then responds with a performance like this. I'm sure critics will jump on it and say maybe it's the start of decline, maybe he's not worth a new contract, but it's still early in the season. There are going to be plenty of twists and turns. And for every Liverpool high, when Salah's at the thick of it, you're going to have people saying, oh, give him this contract, he's worth it. And then he puts in a poor performance, and you're going to have the negative turn. It's about how the Liverpool data team, the recruitment team, Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, how will they all look at it and decide, is Mohamed Salah someone who can keep performing at the highest level consistently for another 2, 3, 4 years? Does he deserve a new contract? Is he going to keep getting you 20 goals plus a season? I think he can. Just because he couldn't today doesn't mean he won't next week or the week after. It's just one game, and these games happen. It's just not normal for Liverpool to experience them, especially early in the season against that struggling side. In hindsight, you take a draw at Old Trafford and you expect to win against Nottingham Forest. I know that's a point more than what they've got from these two games. It's learning as you go along with the new head coach. More of a comments. We've got Ola again saying that Nuno's game plan, he had it worked out. You could say that, but then Arne Slot had his game plan spot on against United a couple of weeks ago, and maybe he shouldn't have said that as publicly as he did on Sky Sports, but that's what he said, and fair enough. Remy's pointed out squad depth. We should have spent money. Our bench is weak. If we have injuries, we're in trouble. Today was a reality check. I can understand the frustration there, but the transfer window is closed. Liverpool did what they did in the transfer window, and they can't do anything else now. You can't change it. It's done. They can reassess in January. This is the squad they've got. Yes, there are a couple of holes potentially in it. If they get a couple of injuries, you are looking around going, what have we got now? Elliott being absent today is one. Whether he'd have started or not, you don't know. But he is someone who can change a game off the bench. You can offer that something different. We've seen him win games off the bench, get vital goals off the bench, vital assists, and that was missing today when Szoboszlai somehow completes 90 minutes despite a really positive performance. But it is still a strong 22. On the bench, they've still got Kelleher, Joe Gomez, Endo, Nunes, Jones, Gakpo, Tsimikas, Kwanzaa, Bradley. Chiesa is still there in the squad. Elliott will be back next month. There are options, but they've got to step up. Last season, when Liverpool was struggling, there were so many games where they started slowly, they conceded first early on. They had to fight back. They had to turn to the bench, and the substitutes stepped up. They made a difference. And it was a recurring theme through the season. We said it time and time again, didn't we? Like, straight back from Newcastle, Nunes coming on and winning the game. It was a recurring theme that substitutes were winning games for Liverpool. And that didn't happen today. And that's where it started to go wrong, where you turn to the bench to change it, and there weren't the answers there. The players didn't make the impact that was wanted of them. But it happens. It's how you respond. Maybe we'll see AC Milan change things a little bit, see if some of these players get a start and they can deserve it. They can knock on the door to keep the places next weekend. Red Chilli says he's not unduly worried. Yeah, there's no reason to be too worried. It's still early in the season and Liverpool did create chances. They weren't at their best. It's frustrating. It's disappointing. You want to see them win, and it just happens. There are going to be setbacks. It's a new head coach. You don't want to expect it, but it's going to happen. It's just how it is. It's not his team, says MJ. It's not Arne Slot's team. True, it's not his team. When it is, then we can complain. But how many of this squad are going to move on? Like, this is unprecedented for Liverpool in terms of it's a very, very good inherited squad. Very young as well. Yeah, we've got the experience in Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah, but there are not going to be too many players in that squad that I think Slot's going to want to move on, unless they want to move on. He's going to be happy keeping them part of the squad. They've won trophies with this team. We'll just see who can make those shirts their own. I do think that it was a mistake, potentially, naming an unchanged starting 11. I said after the United game, when we were doing our predicted lineups, I'd have named an unchanged 11, which shows what I know, journalist rather than manager, head coach. When you do reward the players that are in form, who've done so well against Manchester United. But I'm not there on the training ground. I've not seen how they've all come back from international duty. I've not seen how they've trained. You've not seen what their match levels are like, their fitness levels are like. And there were 2 or 3 players in that team that looked sluggish today. They didn't look at the races. And if you look at that data, maybe there could have been a couple of changes. Maybe you think Darwin Núñez can start up front today, or it's hard to pick one in midfield because Curtis Jones has just come back from injury. We've already said Harvey Elliott's injured, and the manager, Arne Slot, he doesn't seem to quite fancy Wataru Endo. And would you really start Endo and Gravenberch as a midfield pairing if McAllister's not fully fit? I suppose this is what we're talking about when there are those gaps in the squad. Maybe they should have done more. If you sign Zubimendi, then you've got him in there. You've got that extra midfield option. You're not having to go too conservative by putting an Endo, though his physicality and ability to win the ball back might have been what they needed today. Curtis Jones, if he hadn't started the season with an injury, maybe he's what you need more. But we always know Curtis Jones is a player that needs a run of games to get up to speed. Hopefully, you'll get that in the next couple of weeks, whether it's West Ham, AC Milan, or anything like that. Salah will have a great season, says Ola. He's definitely going to the Saudi. I'm not sure about that. We'll see, won't we? Gorsty did a piece a few weeks ago where he says his information is Salah wants to stay and he's not particularly interested in Saudi, having seen how some of the players have done out there. But yeah, anything can happen, can't it? It can change. Salah can talk to foreign clubs in January, as can Trent, as can Virgil van Dijk, and the contract saga is going to roll on and on and on until there's an answer either way. And there's just more intensity on it. There's more pressure on it, speculation, scrutiny, because it is three massive players for Liverpool Football Club, as opposed to in the past where it's been Emre Can, Gini Wijnaldum, Roberto Firmino, James Milner. Like, these are three players that start week in, week out for Liverpool, and you've got all three of them out of contract at the same time. Until they get that resolved, there is going to be this speculation, this scrutiny, this attention on it, and you just hope it doesn't prove to be a distraction. We saw Mohamed Salah's agent speak on social media, didn't he, hitting out some of the reports and everything in the week, talking about people speculating, and he doesn't like it. Maybe Salah has been impacted by that. Something's happened behind the scenes. That is just speculation itself. Speculation breeds speculation. Only Salah can answer why he wasn't quite at it today. But then he is ridiculously inconsistent, ridiculously consistent. He's consistently consistent. So when he has a bad game, you focus on it so much more. Would you bet against him scoring against AC Milan in midweek? I wouldn't. He scored against them when Liverpool last went there in 2021. Got the winner, I believe, in a 2-1 win. So we'll hopefully see him back to his best soon. And it was just one day where he's not quite at it. Coming up to what? 5:45 now. Let's have a look at anything else. Is Everton? Are they falling behind yet? Or Aston Villa holding them to a 0-0 draw? Still 0-0 at Villa Park after 17 minutes. I suppose Everton, they were hoping for Liverpool to do them a favour today and take points off Nottingham Forest, and that's not happened. Look at the Premier League table. Still early days. Liverpool second. If you're taking 9 points from 12 at the start of the season, even though it's a nice run, that's the minimum you expect, isn't it? Like, you prefer to be unbeaten, you take a draw, but 9 points is acceptable. And there's not too many positives to take after a disappointing day for Liverpool, but you do pick yourself up. You can regroup. You manage to get through it, hopefully with no new injuries, and they don't have to wait too long to get back on the pitch. AC Milan in a couple of days. Go and put it right. Go and put it right in the Champions League at the San Siro, and then do it again next weekend against Bournemouth. Mo's asked, where does this leave Liverpool in relation to Arsenal and City? Well, if we look at the table again, I'll just go back on that. Manchester City are top of the table, 11 goals scored, 3 against, goal difference +8, 12 points. Liverpool were second on 9 points, scored 7, conceded 1, goal difference +6. It comes down to the fixtures tomorrow, really. If what happens tomorrow will decide where Liverpool finish the weekend, because Arsenal have that North London derby away at Tottenham, and Newcastle are away at Wolves. Bournemouth host Chelsea. Does that affect anything up there? No. Neither of them can overtake Liverpool. But yeah, Newcastle can and Arsenal can. So if Newcastle and Arsenal win, Liverpool drop to 4th. If they draw or lose, Liverpool stay second. But it's ridiculous, isn't it? We're having this conversation after 4 games of the season. It's not decided just yet. You've still got another 34 games to go, and there's still plenty of football to be played. There'll be players who didn't have great games today who will step up to be Liverpool's heroes. They're winners in the future. There'll be players on that bench who've not had much of a sniff. They'll do exactly the same thing. There will be ups, there will be downs. That's what happens when you bring in a new head coach. That's what happens when you have to change after 9 years of Jurgen Klopp. They're all learning so much about each other now. And it's still been a positive start for Liverpool to the season. A disappointing day today, but not a disappointing campaign so far. First month for Arne Slot. Still got a couple of positives in there. Like I've said, Ryan Gravenberch did well. But Arne Slot has to address what went wrong with Szoboszlai, what went wrong with Salah. Hopefully, McAllister coming off wasn't injury related. It was just a precaution. I'm about to go down now to the post-match press conference. So hopefully we'll get a couple of updates there. Thanks for tuning in to your post-match podcast brought to you by the Liverpool Echo in association with our sponsors, NordVPN, my NordVPN man of the match. It's going to be Ryan Gravenberch again. It's becoming quite boring at the moment, isn't it? It seems to be him almost on a weekly basis, but he's having a magnificent start to the season. As always, stay tuned to the Echo website. I've already touched on Doyley's player ratings. You can go on there and check them out for yourself. Also have Paul Gorst's verdict, and then analysis and all the reaction from Arne Slot and Nuno Espirito Santo. If we're lucky, maybe one of the players was stopped in the mix zone, but don't bank on it. There will be a player put forward on the Champions League press conference on Monday. So, yeah, we'll have Paul Gorst out in Italy, giving you all the build-up to that Champions League clash with AC Milan, the press conference with Arne Slot and, undecided player. And then, yes, full steam ahead. Midweek matches are back. Hopefully Liverpool don't have to suffer a defeat next time. Hopefully they can start the Champions League campaign the right way, and we'll see. Thanks for joining in. I don't think we've got any other comments to go through. Red Chili just saying we'll be back. Yeah, do you ever really doubt that Liverpool will be back? But yeah, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, I've been Theo Squires. I'm not actually sure, I'll say before I go, when we'll do the next post-match podcast, because I'm actually on holiday for a couple of weeks. If you've tuned into the Blood Red podcast recently, you'll know I'm going to be off for a couple of weeks holidaying. So we'll be back at some point next month, and hopefully it won't be after a defeat. Hopefully we'll get a couple of victories in, because it's been a while since we've done one of these. The last one we did would have been Jurgen Klopp's send-off against Wolves. Oh, that was a nice fixture on a sunny day at Anfield back in May. It feels strange to do one in defeat on a cloudy day here. I'm going to put my coat on because it's getting a bit nippy. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, goodbye.